From the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Filing your taxes for free. Filing taxes is an important responsibility that may seem confusing or overwhelming. In fact, more than half of all taxpayers use a commercial tax preparer to file their taxes. Unfortunately, paid tax preparation can cost an average of $300. Some paid preparers avoid sharing their fee until the end of the session or discreetly subtract their service charge from your total tax refund. Since the industry isn't regulated, it's easy for some paid tax preparers to take advantage of clients. Fortunately, there are ways you can file your taxes for free.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 25th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, volunteer income tax assistance, or VITA. Joining us via Zoom to talk more about it are Linda Moody, Program Coordinator and Staff Emerita at UNL, and Chris Carpenter. Chris is a sophomore accounting major and student program volunteer. Welcome to the two of you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Linda, I want to start with you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how psyched are people about filing their taxes?
You know, I would say a 3. There's lots to go into it, right? Tax codes are constantly changing. We've had a lot of stimulus payments in the economy, so many things moving around that people are just really anxious about coming in to get their taxes done. And you know, are they going to owe this year? Are they going to get some money back? So it is an anxious time period.
Okay, thank you. We're going to put up a graphic for our viewers. And as we do that, I want you to talk about the changes or what we can expect for 2021 filing.
Right. So we are seeing with some things with the student loan. They've done some on the itemized deductions with healthcare. I think the most important thing that's coming out of 2021 is advanced child tax credit payments, which was happening in 2021. And so people are questioning, you know, do they have to pay that back? Do they, you know, are they going to pay it? Are they getting the full amount? Those kinds of things. And then I think for people to remember that that this year they can put in a single head of household up to $300 in cash donations. We have a lot of people that give to faith-based organizations and different things like that. So they can take advantage of that. It's $600 for married filing joint.
Okay, and there were a few things that you wanted to make sure that we covered. Earned income credits. Tell us about those.
You know, Nebraskans are known for their work ethic, and they are known for providing for their families. So it's not uncommon to see a Nebraska family working 3, 4, maybe even 5 jobs to make ends meet. And they still might be somewhat close to the poverty line in the United States. And so earned income credits are for families and individuals who work, who have an earned income, and it's monies then that are credits that go back into that household income to try to pull families up to the poverty line. So they're very significant. This year they changed some of the limits on age, so there's not a bottom age, there's not an upper age, and they've also increased some of those benefits. The other one is child independent care expenses. So families who are paying for daycare, maybe there are children who are helping now pay for older parents. They have increased the amount there from $8,000 to $16,000, depending upon whether it be one child, two children, or one parent, 2 parents. So those are things we want to make people aware of. And then also for families that have college age students, there's educational credits. The American Opportunity Credit gives money back plus lowers taxable income. So there's all kinds of things that we want families and individuals to know that they are eligible for.
So much to know here, Linda, and to try to remember and to keep up on. And, you know, a lot of folks wind up, obviously, you know, getting help from the experts, but that can be costly. Talk about what folks can expect to pay nowadays to get the help they're needing to file those taxes properly.
Right. Especially when you start talking about the number of credits, the number of children on a return, those all add cost to the tax preparation services. And so I did have someone in 2 weeks ago that it was just her filing single with Social Security benefits and a W-2, and the paid preparer charged her over $500. So we can look at that, and then I think it goes up. I think if someone can now get their taxes prepared for $300, I guess I would look at the qualifications of that preparer to make sure that they're legitimate. But the prices are increasing because there are tax credits out there, like the child tax credit. So refunds are typically going to be higher for our low-income families.
Okay, which is a nice segue into the topic for today, VITA. Talk to us about just what that is, Linda.
Yeah. Well, it's free tax preparation. It is an opportunity for low-income families, non-filing families, to come into a site where they're treated with dignity and respect, where people actually enjoy doing taxes for free because they want to be a part of the community fabric of serving and giving back. And so VITA is an Internal Revenue Service program specifically to serve low-income families and individuals, non-filing families and individuals, individuals with disabilities, and individuals where English is not their first language. And so all of our volunteers are certified in tax law through the Internal Revenue Service Lincoln Learn program.
Okay, talk to us, and you've mentioned it, but specifically about criteria, because now we have viewers who are on the edge of their seats here thinking, oh my goodness, there is help out there for me and I'm not going to have to spend an arm and a leg. So talk a little bit more specifically about the criteria.
Right. Great question. I think it's important to note first that on some of the different platforms that we may discuss or viewers might find later, there's always income levels. And so there's one of it, it's a free filing tax service that we offer where the income level is $73,000 or lower. Typically at a VITA site, our low income families are typically making less than $58,000. However, that being said, we are not going to shoo someone away if their income is a little bit higher. There's a lot going on in the world today. We don't know everyone's setting or situation. And so typically if people need to come to a free filing service, there's a reason for them to come to a free filing service. And so I think that's important to know that even though there might be some income guidelines, it's always situational.
Okay, and before we drill down a little bit into process, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about the program. I understand there's an umbrella over this. Talk a little bit more about that and what you do and why you do it, Linda.
That's a great question, right? The why do we do it? Because our families need this service. There was a point in time probably in my history to where I didn't have a lot of money to file my taxes. So when I was first approached by our relationship manager in the Internal Revenue Service, I think in our conversation it hit to home that there are people who need this service. And so one of the things that we're providing now is tax credit clinics. It's an educational piece to get people familiar with what are the credits. How do they qualify for the credits? We typically do that pre and post tax season. And then during tax filing season, mid-January to mid-April, we do our free tax preparation. We do answer some tax questions during that time period to help our families and our individuals that seek us out for our services. We are starting the Tax Credit Alliance of Nebraska, TCAN, because we want to get more free tax preparation across the state of Nebraska. And we are fortunate that we do have VITA sites across Nebraska, but we need to add more. And then there's also Tax Aid Nebraska, which is an ARP free tax preparation service as well.
Okay, so people know a little bit more now about VITA. They know a little bit more about you. So if someone who is watching thinks that they may qualify, walk us through the process. They must log on somewhere, maybe they make a phone call, but tell us what they're supposed to do next, Linda.
Right. Well, next step is to find out where your local tax site is. And so here at the University of Nebraska, the first thing we ask clients to do, whether they live in Lincoln, they don't live in Lincoln, is to go to vita.unl.edu/signup and to schedule for an appointment. Once they've scheduled for an appointment, they'll get a confirmation email. Folks can either file in person, virtual, or through self-prep. We can help them through all those stages. Once they have their appointment, then get all their tax documents together, all their identification documents together, and then come into a tax site where they will be greeted warmly, because we're always happy to see folks because, well, we enjoy doing tax returns. And from that there, they'll fill out an intake sheet so we get more information that we use on the tax return. And then they will be introduced to their tax preparer, who will then spend anywhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 45 minutes, depending upon the complexity of their return, of actually inputting all the data that they bring with them.
Okay, and I want to let our viewers know we're going to be putting those websites up later in the program. You touched on it, Linda. Tell us a little bit more about these volunteers that folks will be meeting. Do they go to them? How does all of that work? There's a site, you said. There are sites across the state. So now I'm in the door. I have everything I think I need, and I go sit down with an individual. Talk about the volunteers. What's your expectation of them?
Right. I expect our volunteers to be professional. I expect our volunteers to practice what I call open heart, open mind, to be inclusive, to be empathetic. Our taxpayers sometimes have a story they need to tell. So it's important for that person to feel comfortable telling us a little bit about themselves and why they're there. Our tax preparers are anywhere from college-age students to retirees. They've all been tax law certified, and they have huge hearts, I guess is one way of describing it. They want to be there. They want to serve.
This is a great time to introduce again Chris Carpenter. How did she do, Chris?
I think Dr. Moody did great.
Chris,
everything, so.
You are one of the many volunteers. You are a sophomore. Before we talk about what you're doing with VITA, just tell us a little bit about you, Chris. What's important to know about you?
I'm an accounting major, sophomore at UNL, and really exciting to work for VITA and everything.
How did you become introduced to them? There's got to be a story there.
Not really that exciting of a story, but just one of my accounting classes kind of like had a flyer for it, and I thought it would just be a great opportunity to help and everything. It could like possibly go on my resume, try to get like an internship in the future, as well as like have good volunteer service work, everything like that. So yeah.
Talk about the application process.
Well, that's also pretty simple with like the tests we had to take and everything. You sign up on GivePulse, which is like volunteer recording service online, and then there's just 3 tests we kind of take on our own and everything. First one's just like a volunteer standards test. Next one's like an intake interview test. And then the last test, which is probably the hardest one, is the advanced tests. So I just had to get like a passing score on those. And there's also like retests in case like I failed the first one. A lot of them is more just like showing like diligence and stuff, like trying to like pass the test and everything. So it's not like the test answers are like difficult to find and everything. It's just finding the time it takes to like look for answers and stuff.
Okay, so then you're notified that you've been accepted. What happens next then? Training, or what are the next steps there?
We do have one like large training session where we kind of use like the TaxSlayer service, as well as like go through like an example, which is usually a fairly difficult, like exhaustive example is like tons of different forms we have to enter and stuff like that. So we definitely do get a really good training from that one session.
How much of that, Chris, just curiously, knowing there are so many volunteers, when you come together with these folks, talk about that a little bit, that collaborative piece, that meeting new people, but you're all there for the common good, you know, of helping, in this case, you know, Nebraskans. Talk about some of the folks that you've met and kind of what that was like.
It's been really good to like meet all those people and everything and like form that collaborative relationship and stuff. Because there's some times where doing taxes and stuff, especially the property tax credit, which is a new thing, and I'm not 100% sure how to like find all the website and stuff that I need to find, so I can go ask someone else and get an answer for that and everything. So it's been really helpful.
Okay, so help us understand this a little bit. You are a sophomore, a student. Obviously, you have other things going on in your world, right? What kind of time is this taking in terms of the big picture?
The big picture and stuff, all the tests, the training, that was done over winter break and everything. So I had more free time then and everything. But now it's more of like a 3.5 hour commitment on like a Saturday, which isn't exactly like a huge time commitment and everything. So definitely able to fit it into my schedule.
Okay. Anything about the training or getting ready to sit across a table from people who are counting on you, right, to assist them with a very complicated, sometimes process? Was there anything about the training that was especially challenging for you, maybe especially surprising for you, in terms of what you had already learned in your educational trek?
The training and stuff, I guess, we do have this booklet that we can use to like reference stuff, which was really helpful and everything, and taking the tests and stuff. I don't think there's anything exactly like difficult or anything. It was challenging, so.
Okay. So walk us through now, if you would, again, so we can kind of get an idea of what this is like. Linda did a great job setting the stage in terms of what people are going to need to bring and all the rest. Now they're in and they meet you, they pull up a chair, they sit down. Just briefly tell us what to expect with that.
So the first step for the tax return is to get like social security cards and stuff, because that is the first thing we need to like start the return in TaxSlayer. And then usually they already have the interview intake sheet already filled out, which has a lot of questions that really helps me and the other returners like figure out what forms they already have and like anything they'd be unsure about. And so we can change those unsure answers to like yes and no answers and stuff. So then the next stage is a lot of like just like data entry and stuff. So the W-2s, the 1099, so like especially this year with like stimulus and the advanced child tax credit. So,
Okay. And expectations wise, in terms of time, how much time, is there an average amount that it takes to serve a customer or customers?
I would say somewhere in the area of like half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on the complexity of the return, the amount of information I have to enter. Because if people are like returning VITA customers, sometimes that information can be like pulled forward from like prior years and everything. So that helps you go a lot quicker and everything.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about, this could be something for your resume, but I also wanted to ask you, just in terms of both personal and professional growth, what this experience is doing for you.
It's really helping me be like a more like well-rounded person and everything, because I still have to have like the personal connections with everything. Well, it's just helping my like tax skills with that, and all the other people that are like helping me out with everything. Because I feel like I have a pretty good connection with like Dr. Moody, and as well as the other tax preparers that are there, as well as a lot of other like skills I've got, like trying to like find out answers to different things.
Okay, wonderful. I think this would be a good time to bring Linda back in to the conversation. Linda, how did he do? How did Chris do?
He did great. This is Chris's second year of volunteer income tax assistant prep. He did virtual, 100% virtual last year. So this is his first year in person. And so he's outstanding. And how he approaches it. So we really count on Chris at the site to do a variety of things, from not only preparing taxes to doing peer quality reviews, to answering tax questions, those kinds of things.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so in the minutes that we have remaining, I want to talk a little bit more about resources for people. Linda, you mentioned earlier, that people can find a location near them. We're going to put up a website here, VITA site near you. Tell us a little bit about that, Linda.
Right. Well, this site is where everything is recorded through the IRS relationship managers. They're the ones who work with VITA programs across the U.S. And so every program that is out there that has open hours is on this site, and it's zip code related. And so you can type in your zip code on this website, and then they will let you know what sites are available, regardless of location.
Okay, wonderful. And curiously, how much longer are people able to schedule appointments? There's, usually a start date and an end date. What is that for you?
Right. Well, in Lincoln, with our in-person sites, our sites will start closing around April 11th, April 12th. And then as the closer we get to the filing deadline, which is April 18th, people who still haven't filed, we're going to ask them to file an extension. And so that lets the IRS know that they plan on filing. They just cannot get it done by the 18th of April. And then we spend the last part of April into May, early June, continuing to file tax returns.
Okay, thank you. And Linda, what other organizations are offering similar type services?
Right. We're pretty fortunate in Nebraska to have TaxAid Nebraska, which is an AARP site. So typically programs or communities in Nebraska are either VITA sites or they're TaxAid sites. And we are in the process of trying to get more sites up and going, or more tax prep clinics. So there'll be some more information coming out on it. AARP TaxAid Nebraska typically caters to older adults. So individuals who are retired or are retiring. Regardless, an AARP site or a VITA site can do your taxes as long as they fall within the scope of the programs.
Okay, wonderful. And we just have a minute or two here. We're talking about volunteer income tax assistance today. Linda, for people who are just joining us or joined a little bit late, just sum that up for us. What is VITA?
Free tax preparation. Free information on getting to know what taxes you qualify for. So in a nutshell, it's free tax preparation by IRS certified return preparers.
Okay, wonderful. We have about a minute remaining. Final thoughts from each of you. Chris, do you have any thoughts here to end the program?
I guess one big question is about the stimulus and whether that is taxable income. and it is not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Linda, what about you? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts is find us. If you do not have a filing requirement and you have children in your household you're responsible for, find us. We will get those child tax credits back to you. If you're low income, we'll also look at those earned income credits. So find us. We will prepare your taxes for free.
Wonderful. Talking with Linda Moody and Chris Carpenter today about VITA. For folks wanting more information on this topic, and I want to thank the two of them. What a wonderful job they did, a great team effort. Folks wanting more information, irs.treasury.gov. There's revenue.nebraska.gov, and of course, vita.unl.edu. As we close, a look at scenes from the OPPD Arboretum in Omaha as seen through the lens of Chris Rios, a junior at UNO. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.
It is the longest-running Omaha-based statewide television program on the air today. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt, producer and host of Consider This. Now in our 25th season, we wish to acknowledge those who have made this educational journey possible. Our guests, underwriters, student crews, the Knowledge Network, the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and of course, viewers just like you. Thank you for watching.